The Interstellar Song Contest is a mixed bag of all sorts, and I kind of love it, but I also kind of don't, so let's get right into it. Written by Juno Dawson, this 6th episode and penultimate story of the series takes the Doctor and Belinda on yet another accidental journey as they try and get their Vindicator working. And where does it take them? Well, if you hadn't worked it out yet, you're watching the wrong video. They end up at the 803rd Interstellar Song Contest, which if you're not up to date with current events, is a terribly timed brand crossover episode. What I mean by that is that right now, the Eurovision Song Contest, which, you know, this episode is based on, is a bit of a controversial topic. I'm not going to comment on any of that, and while I think the politics of the episode are a tad messy, I'm not going to bring the real world events relating to Eurovision into it in this video. It just wouldn't be right, it's not the place. Free Palestine. Who said that? This episode kicks off with a lot of fun in my opinion. Rylan Clark being unfrozen once a year to host this thing is just, it's hilarious. It brings a nice level of reality to the episode without bogging it down too much in the real world figures. He exists to us now, but is used in a very sci-fi way. Interestingly, Mrs. Flood has her once an episode cameo earlier on this time, right at the start. Finally we're beginning to get an idea of what she's doing. I'm sure that'll pay off really well and won't end up being a nonsensical ending to a character that was never planned. Mrs. Flood finally admits to us that the Vindicator was sort of her doing, or at the very least, she's benefiting from it. This whole year I've been wanting her to do more stuff, like at the end of Lucky Day when she freed Conrad. That's really the only time she's done anything other than just shown up, looked at the camera and said things. Well, this time is a little different, but unfortunately, we all already knew she was using the Vindicator for something, so it wasn't really needed. Doesn't matter, we'll get to her again later, as I'm sure you can guess. As the episode continues, some terrorists, I say in quote marks, lock down the Interstellar Song Contest and prepare to do some killing. Immediately, everyone in the audience gets thrown up into space and frozen, except for conveniently Belinda, who was the only audience member not to get thrown up there. Why? Luck. Genuinely just luck. A few others survived, like Gary and Mike, who weren't in the audience at the time, and the singer, Cora Saint-Bavier, and her manager, apparently. I don't really know who he was, he just sort of showed up and started being an arsehole. But the important thing here is that the Doctor gets sucked up into space, and he freezes. Oh dear. Whatever will he do? How does the Doctor get rescued from being frozen in space? Well, out of the fucking blue, Susan Foreman shows up in the Doctor's head and starts calling him grandfather. Reasonably so, the Doctor freaks out a bit, unfreezes and rides a confetti cannon back to Earth before comedically passing out in front of a middle-aged gay couple. I cannot express to you enough how much this perfectly represents Doctor Who, and I love it. Yeah, so Susan showing up was something I think a lot of us saw coming eventually. I mean, it kind of had to. The way the last series was structured was clearly setting up for her return, and if that wasn't happening, then that is bad writing. They name-dropped her so much, and the Doctor even mentioned maybe going to find her. However, making a brief appearance in this episode, I did not see that coming. It's a very, very welcome surprise, but wow, I got truly taken back by that. Great setup for the finale, and really well done as well. Little visions in his worst moments. It's nice. I have questions, of course I do, but I'm sure maybe one of them might get answered in the finale. I mean, I don't trust that any questions will, to be honest, but we'll see. Anywho, the Doctor makes it to the ship, he teams up with Gary and Mike, and they try and make it to the room with the Hellions. Belinda teams up with Cora and her arsehole manager trying to make it to the room with the Hellions, and it all becomes a bit diehard. It's fun. The Hellions, Kid and Wynne, plan to broadcast a noise that will kill everyone watching the Interstellar Song Contest. 3 trillion people. It's not great, but you know what? They have motivation. A Doctor Who episode where villains have a proper motivation? It couldn't be. Their world was raided and destroyed by a corporation in order to harvest the hell poppies and use them as flavouring for honey. Such a meaningless, pointless reason to destroy a planet. I can see why Kid and Wynne were angry, to be honest with you. This corporation sponsored the song contest, so as far as they're concerned, anyone watching is supporting the genocide of their planet. Now, genocide is an interesting word here, and I'm keeping this separate from the real world situation right now, but essentially Kid and Wynne are the survivors of a genocide, and they plan on committing the same atrocity against the entire universe. It's an interesting take on vengeance. This is all coupled, again, by the Hellions being treated as scum, as if they're monsters, just because they're different and a bunch of loud bigots want to convince the world that they're disgusting. Oh, did I mention, by the way, that this episode is penned by a trans writer? Yeah, this part was handled really well, and I could tell it meant something to them. The constant misconceptions, a necessity to hide one's true self, being treated differently. I really wish the episode leaned more into that than the terrorism part, to be honest. But unfortunately, this is a Eurovision episode starring characters who the vast majority of the audience fucking hate with a passion, so any kind of trans identity storyline they were going for got completely overshadowed by the real world Eurovision and the current politics surrounding it. Of course, mixing it with a genocide story didn't help. Again, not going to get into that side of things, just sort of, you know, terrible timing, I guess. Also very funny that Ncuti Gatwa pulled out of hosting Eurovision with Graham Norton, who was also in this episode last minute. I bet the BBC loved that. Speaking of Ncuti Gatwa, he's the Doctor. Or is he? This motherfucker gets angry in the episode. You see, for some reason he thinks he's a genocide survivor. Firstly, he did it himself, but then that never happened, and then the Master killed all the Time Lords again, except no, he absolutely didn't. He just killed a good handful of them that happened to be on Gallifrey at the time. I can name 5 Time Lords alive in the universe right now, and I'd put a good chunk of money on the line that the finale is going to see the planet repopulated with space babies who were Time Lords all along, but we'll see. Anyway, the Doctor gets livid and acts out of character towards the end. When he finally makes it back to Kid, he beats the shit out of him, essentially torturing him. Not before he outright says he's going to watch Kid die earlier in the episode. This is not the Doctor, but oh god, this is Doctor Who. This moment is actually quite a contentious topic online, it seems, with some people really hating the fact that the Doctor did this. There was an interview with someone who said that Russell T Davies said to go hard with it, and now people are saying, yeah, let's blame Russell T Davies. No, we should thank him. This scene was exactly what we needed from the 15th Doctor. He witnessed an attempt to kill 3 trillion people, reminding him not only of what happened to his planet, but also the biggest mistake he ever made. And what's the second biggest regret of his life? Oh yeah, leaving Susan behind, and now he's seeing her again. The Doctor's mind is in flurry right now, and he's acting out of character, and that's fine. In the final normal story before the finale, this kind of outburst is good. It's worthwhile character development. And before you say, oh, but the Doctor should have shown Kid that this wasn't the way rather than trying to kill him. Yeah, the Doctor should have done that. And for the first time since this guy became the Doctor, 15 is finally showing some depth and complexity to his character. He's not a god. Yet. And he isn't always right. He's gonna get it wrong, and do some questionable things. He's still a being with feelings. I don't know, I always like it when the Doctor goes nuts and even leans into his darkness. Maybe it's just me, but I thought that scene was great. The plan to kill everyone was thwarted, and with some clever science from Gary and Mike, the team were able to unfreeze everyone from space, and everybody lives. Just this once, except actually, it happens a hell of a lot that everyone lives. Thanks, Doctor. Following this, a wonderful ending happened. Cora announced to the world that she was trans, Hellion, and sung a beautiful song that got the whole universe cheering for not only her, but her species. Peaceful vengeance, you could call it. That's the Doctor Who ending I've been craving for the last few years. The Doctor being wrong, the Doctor failing, kind of. But the day was still saved. As Belinda and the Doctor approach the TARDIS to leave, they see Graham Norton, who tells them that Earth blew up on May the 24th, 2025. This is a strange ending because it leads into a finale quite nicely, with the Doctor and Belinda knowing what happened to Earth, in a way. But it was framed as some big reveal for the audience, with dark music and everything. But correct me if I'm wrong, but the Earth blowing up is the very first thing we find out this series. It's not a surprise to us. So I don't know, I felt like that reveal was kind of a wasted couple of minutes. Even the Doctor and Belinda knew the Earth blew up, surely. Anyway, it doesn't stop them trying to land there. Now the Vindicator has done its thing, so they go to Earth in 2025, the TARDIS freaks out, the doors blow off, and roll credits. Nice cliffhanger, really. Finally they made it. We know shit's gonna go down in the next episode, they're in trouble. I really like the way this ties in, with all the Susan stuff too, it promises a big ending. One thing I found interesting was how much the word Mavity was used. I think that's finally going to get fixed in a couple of episodes, because they clearly wanted to remind us that it was a thing ahead of the finale. But wait, a post-credit scene. I'm sure this is just a fun little one-off joke and not some massive reveal that will ruin the next episode for anyone who dares to click off the episode before this plays. Ah, of course, Mrs. Flood was frozen and now we're seeing her get unfrozen. Probably just a fun little tease. Holy shit, she's regenerating. Well, of course she's regenerating. This was not only the show's worst kept secret, but also more or less the obvious choice, and the biggest fan theory of them all. Mrs. Flood bi-generates into 2 people, and one of them just flippantly announces that she's the Rani while walking past the other one. Frankly, what the fuck is this? We'll get into the Rani herself in the next review since we get to see her more there, but for now I'll just say that this looked like shit. Clearly the Disney money ran out. This was so obvious. Is it really the best they could think of for Mrs. Flood? Why is Mrs. Flood now submissive to the other one? That's just entirely not how her character is or how regeneration works. The reveal was god-awful, that's not an opinion. Truly, the return of an iconic, classic villain in a revival of a revival being revealed with no fanfare in the middle of the credits after an 18-month build-up is diabolical. I get that Wishworld doesn't have time for this reveal, but come on, this could have been so much better. Also, bi-regeneration is supposed to be rare, it's supposed to be a myth. Now it's happened twice in a row. The only way to make this make sense is if they reveal it to have been the Rani's experiment, like the space babies being an attempt to her making Time Lords. I'm telling you, there's a good chance of that happening. Anyway, yeah, I still hope they've been in the land of fiction since the power of the Doctor, and that the Rani has been basically behind all of the inconsistent stuff. One other thing that I'm adding now while recording this that I've just thought of is they didn't do the Flood, Rain, Rani reveal that everyone thought they would, the anagram. And they didn't even do it in Wishworld, which, I'm recording this episode long after Wishworld even came out, so sorry about this, it's quite late. I find that interesting that clearly they were heading for a Flood, Rain, Rani reveal, and I have a feeling that after the Sutekh thing was, universally hated, they probably reshot the Rani's bi-generation and reveal, and that's why it looks like this, and that's why it's not a proper scene, and why everything is just, fucked. because basically it was a last minute reshoot that needed to be separate from everything. I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if that is the reason that this reveal is god-awful. Anyway, moving on. Overall, I really liked the episode. I thought the middle part dragged a bit, and I don't like the Rani ending, but for the most part, it was loads of fun. And taking the real-world politics out of it, it's an interesting look at terrorism and the public perception of large groups of people. Marginalised ones, perhaps. Maybe slightly dodgy politics right now and a crappy ending, but so much fun and a lot to love. 7.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you thought of the episode in the comments, and be sure to stick around for my review of Wish World coming soon. As always, stay wibbly, stay wobbly, stay timey-wimey, and I will see you in the next one.